All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Meepoville Presents Yay or No Way. This week on Yay or No Way, I happen to be on the Yay side and we'll be discussing Hanabi.
And that means I'm on the no way side. So let's jump right into it here. The first thing I want to talk about is meta. For anybody that doesn't know what a meta is with a game, it's kind of a predetermined way to play that everyone agrees is the best way to play. You'll find this in board games, video games. So for example, before we start playing Hanabi, we could say, I'm always going to discard a tile from my left. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot of information, but when you're already starting to expand out from the game's original intent of no direct communication with other players, then you start to come across players that have like a whole list of things that are part of their meta. Does this always make you win the game? No, because it still has a bit of a randomness with drawing the tiles and the cards. But the more you add to your meta, the less of a game it becomes for me. It turns into how much does my set of rules kind of mitigate the RNG of the game that you're playing. Now, plenty of people are going to get to the point of having a meta just from playing with other people. And that's great. Like, you're going to learn, you're going to adjust. That's a good way to be playing this game. I more have issues with groups or players that kind of go directly into this game with new players and explain all these preset metas beforehand. Like, oh, just so you know, you should do this, this, and this. And that just kind of takes away from it a bit for me. So yeah, I understand why people have this. I'm just at the point where once you know what the meta is and it exists, it takes away a bit of the fun for me.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you there a little bit, Grant. You do make some good points, and they are valid. But I absolutely love this game, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you why. I'm going to expand a little bit on the things that you said. So first of all, when you talk about how there are conventions. Now, I know a lot of people do play Hanabi with conventions, and when you sit down, as you said, you get started and you say, okay, how do you discard? Where do you do this? How do you do that? This means that, blah, 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 blah. That is not the way you're supposed to play. That does take out a lot of the sort of interaction and stuff in the game. When I play now with my friends and even new people, the only kind of rule we make, or the one convention we say at the beginning, is whatever you do it the same way the whole game. Mm-hmm. If you take a tile and put it here, wherever, just do that. If you take a tile and discard it from there, whatever you do, just be consistent. So that way we can just learn and see what you're doing. So that's the only thing that I do now as far as making a convention, because yes, that isn't the intent of the game to do that, because as you say, you can meta, get really detailed. And what'd you say? The world record is like, what, 4 or 5 minutes when guys do that? So
I wouldn't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case.
And then with the 100% information, with the cooperative game. So I am a person who does not like fully cooperative games that have 100% information. For example, say like Pandemic or the Desert Island or games like that, where everything's out there, so there can be an alpha player to control the direction of the game. Because if they know the right moves, the optimal moves, they should say it, tell you, and then it's done. You can just sit there and be like, okay, you go ahead and play for me. With Hanabi, it's not 100% information, and that's why I really enjoy it, because the whole intent is to try to make sure in your mind that you are fully happy and comfortable with your decisions and your relay of information that your other players, essentially your teammates, are going to understand. And it's just as enjoyable when they give you information for you to try to make sure that you're on their same page. And it's just so satisfying when, yes, it does connect and you both make that connection, or however many people are playing the game, that you are all thinking like-minded, like a hive mind, and you are on the same connection. So it's just so satisfying when that happens in a game like this. Now, another thing that I don't like about this game, or that the way I play that a lot of people do, is the scoring. Now, the game in the rule book has a score. Say, for instance, you only get X number, you score this or this. I'm one of those kind of people that if we cannot win the game, in other words, get a perfect score, then for me, it's immediately stopped and start all over. Because the intent on playing a game, in my opinion, is to try to beat the game and win the game. I'm not just in it for a score. That is not satisfying to me at all. So
and I would agree with that, yeah.
So again, I agree with a lot of your points. As far as why I can see you may not like this game. However, This is one of the games I really, really love.
And I can definitely see it for a group of all brand new people to this game learning together. I can think that can be a great experience for everybody to all learn at the same pace. Kind of thing would make this really fun.
Yeah, and absolutely. Another thing, Grant, like you pointed out, when you're talking about like the conventions for learning the game, I think it's essential to discuss the sort of conventions. But I've read a lot about this and stuff, and the conventions essentially are more common sense, right? Like, say one of the conventions people say is that whatever tile you're going to discard is the one that has been there the longest, that you have zero information, has been there the longest. That's sort of common sense, wouldn't you agree?
Yes. I mean, trying to bring common sense into it, people think about games in different ways. It might not be as common sense to somebody that's not as familiar with board gaming terms or strategies. Absolutely, to your gamers, that's going to make common sense, but it might not to somebody that's brand new to gaming to that same degree. And so again, it's that explaining it to somebody versus letting them simply learn that on their own kind of thing. So again, a new group, if they just play and they realize like, oh, nobody's told me about this tile for such a long time, it's probably worthless, and they figure out on their own. I just like when people get there to their own degree. So yeah, you can talk about beforehand and let them know, and that's going to make them have an easier time with it. But really just learning the game and letting them get through it and enjoy it, I'm totally fine letting them fly blind kind of thing and having them figure it out.
Right. So when you say you don't like it also, does it come down to like, this is just a game you will not play, you do not enjoy at all or anything, or where are you on that aspect?
As with most games, it's about who I'm playing with. I probably wouldn't bring this out with like new people. If I was playing with friends that really wanted to play this game, sure, I would have nothing against playing it, but it's not something I'm just going to jump into with random people ever.
Right. Not just one of your favorite games. I can understand that. Well, now what about components? What do you think about the components?
So the two big things here to talk about with the components is there is a card version and a tile version. And the tile version was out of print for a really long time, and it did just get a new one, I believe. So it's a little bit more readily available. When you're playing with the cards, you really need card holders because your information kind of has to always be out from you, which can be kind of hard, and you're always holding your hands up here. So with the cards, not so great.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. And there is two different versions for the people who are thinking of getting into this game. There is the version with the cards. One of the things I noticed with the cards that makes that's really annoying is you have to kind of sit there and you have to like hold your arm up, and it gets tired after a while and adjust the cards certain ways and all that. But the tiles are on the table and they're supported by the table in themselves, and they're really beautiful, really well made. You do have to be careful, though, because I don't know if you remember the first set we had, the color actually wore off because the table was sliding them. So,
and there's no way to sleeve tiles. So if people are a little too abusive with it or too strong with it, like, yeah, it's going to be gone kind of thing. But
yeah, absolutely. So you have to be careful. And I consider myself, I made up this term, a snobby, because I only play with the tiles now. To me, that is the only way to play this game. It's the deluxe version of Hanabi, if you want to say so. I'm a snobby when it comes down to that.
It's worth having. If you have access to it, absolutely play the tile version.
Yes. So there you go, folks. I mean, we're just trying to give you a little bit of some of the things why, like, for example, I think it's a great game to play. Grant maybe doesn't think it's a good game or that enjoyable, but at the end of the day, it's up for you to decide how you feel about Hanabi.
So let us know down below in the comments, like and subscribe, tell us how you feel about Hanabi. And as always, you can find us on YouTube here on our Meepleville channel or over on Facebook at Meepleville Board Game Cafe.
Yep. And if you're ever in Las Vegas, make sure you come in, stop in, and say hi. Thanks again for joining us. See you soon.
Have a good night.